Hey guys, welcome back to Handball House TV. It's your boy Gooch. Just got this new microphone so I can make sure you guys hear me crystal clear from every video from here on out, along with all my other partners who are going to be joining me, obviously, throughout the season. First of all, before we get into it, I want to thank everybody for sharing the videos that have been posted for the last 2 weeks, subscribing and liking the channel. We really appreciate it. We're just starting out. So without further ado, let's get started with the video. Alright guys, so today's video, I know we're indoors, but we don't need the wall for this. All we need right now is to understand the technique, because this video is about cutting the ball. First, I want to thank you guys for reaching out, giving me suggestions on videos that you guys want me to create for you guys. And this is only beneficial for all of us, and I really appreciate it. And for those of you who are new to the sport that want to understand what cutting the ball means, it pretty much means adding a spin to the shot, so once it makes contact with the wall, it changes direction. So picture this, somebody that's not paying attention to the type of swing that you're making, once the ball hits the wall, it can either go this way or this way, which is obviously going to put your opponent in a position where they're not expecting it, and they're going to have to, they might jam themselves, they're going to use the wrong hand, and they're going to lose position on the court. So cutting the ball is very lucrative, especially with a lot of practice. You can add more spin. You can even make the ball drop down faster. You can give yourself more time once you're off the court. If the opponent has, moved you off the court and you need some time to get back into the court, cutting the ball will give you enough time to run back inside and conserve your energy at the same time. I'll be showing you guys some videos that have been pre-recorded with some matches that happened over the past couple of weeks. And I'll be pointing out when a cut is coming so you can kind of see the small differences that it makes in a game with high-level players. So before we dive into it, I want to show you guys from your point of view what it looks like from behind if I were to cut the ball aiming for the wall straight. Now it's going to get a little bit confusing, especially if you're just kind of getting into the sport. But for those of you who are a little bit more experienced, you guys know that this technique is actually, more or less, it's not a beginner. It's going to be more of an intermediate type of shot. And here we go. I'm going to do this to the best of my ability. So now, since there's multiple ways to cut the ball, I'm going to start with an overhand cut. When somebody serves the ball to you and the ball is overhand, you're going to look at it like this. If you flat hand it, your hand has to be parallel to the wall in order for you to make sure that your shot is going to be going to the wall. But now if you cut the ball, you have to realize, obviously your hand can't be flat. Your hand in some way, shape, or form has to be angled for you to apply a spin to the ball. And I say this because, one, it's going to take some practice. It's a tough shot. And you're going to have to put a lot more strength behind your swing. So that's just what it is. Anyway, so if the ball's coming your way and it's overhand, the best way that I can explain to you how to hit this ball to add a small cut where the ball will rotate this way, as in when the ball hits the wall, it'll go to the right if you're a righty, or to the left if you're a lefty. The ball's going to be right here. What I like to do with my hand is to cup it a little bit, just like so. Cup the hand just a little bit, because you want to have as much friction all around the ball as possible. Just think about it for a second, because if you were to flat hand it, there's nothing besides a flat surface that it just bounces right off. But if you were to cup your hand a little bit, it's almost like you're catching the ball, but not really. In a way, you're adding a little bit of friction with your fingers and your palm together to rotate the ball. It sounds a little like, huh? That doesn't make any sense, but believe me, when you try it, it's going to work. The way to have a little bit of, I guess, control over where you want to put the ball on the wall, you're going to have to figure out over time how much of an angle or how much of a swing needs to be away from you. Because when the ball's coming, you're not hitting it straight and you're not cutting it straight, right? the ball has to meet your hand in a way where your hand is going outwards. Outwards. Because think about it. How can you cut the ball if your hand is tilted to the side like this, knowing that you're not flat handing it? Where do you expect the ball to go? The ball is clearly not going to be in the court. So you have to think about it like that. How are you going to angle it in the court? Well, the more I swing away from the ball is the more I shave the ball with the cup you have in your hand to add more spin and to keep the ball more centered to aim on, well, to keep it inbound, to keep it in the court is what I'm trying to say. So in 2 seconds, I'm going to show you a video real quick where that cut is being applied. Alright guys, so now we're going to talk about a second cut. This one is also a little bit more advanced. It's a little bit more difficult than the overhand cut. This one is the sidearm cut. Now, most of you that know how to whip the ball, that kind of correlates to a cut, although you're not putting so much force with the ball shooting to the wall. You're adding more force to the spin instead. Now, obviously it depends on the angle in which you're hitting this cut, because some people might want to hit the ball away from them in a way where you cut the ball so it keeps it from going out at an angle and you're bringing the ball back in. Or you might want to start from this position and you might want to cut it in a way where if you're a righty, it would hit the wall and it will go to the left and maybe even drop faster. So this way, throwing your opponent into a loop where they might have to back up and run out to hit it correctly, or take that risk to run in and hit it before it bounces. So obviously a pretty good move. So without further ado, I'm going to do my best to explain it in the best of my abilities. And I think it's better if I face you for this cut because I need you guys to understand the placement of your hand when it meets the ball. Now, obviously, pretend you're the wall, all right? The ball's coming at me. Now, if you're a flat hander, you're already waiting for the ball to meet you at a point where it's like right around your waist level or parallel to your body right here, because that's where the ball, that's where most of you guys have your hand to meet the ball. Now I'm telling you, if you want to cut the ball, the best way to cut the ball is to hit the ball while it's still in front of you, all right? And the reason why that I say this is because you need to be able to have a loose wrist when hitting a cut shot with your hand. Now, remember what I said. Most of you guys wait for the ball to be right around here so you can flat hand it. There's no, unless you guys are super flexible, I know I can't do it, but you don't have much mobility back here to control how much strength you're putting into a cut because of the angle of your hand in which you need it to be in to cut the ball. You'll have no strength back here. But if you hit the ball while it's still a little bit in front of you, you'll have the strength to hit a hard shot with a cut applied to it, all right? When I'm cutting the ball, I make sure the ball is in front of me a little bit so I can apply more strength and more speed and force to the shot while applying a cut at the same time. I'm hitting the ball slightly underneath it while keeping my wrist bent towards me as much as possible. Instead of keeping it locked like this, I'm keeping it out as much as possible. You want your wrist to bend out so your thumb pretty much faces you, all right? Because when the ball comes at you, you basically need a place for the ball to rest a little bit. So the force of the ball coming at you slows down. Because in that process, you're also sliding your hand underneath it. You get what I'm saying? The ball's coming at you, it lands on your hand, but because your wrist is bent back at an angle, the ball pretty much would rest ever so slightly to stop the force of the ball coming at you in order for you to swiftly slide your hand while hitting it. It's like a hit but a slide at the same time to add that spin back to the wall. Now what that's going to do is, if you were hitting the ball at an angle this way, then same thing, ball's coming here, you will hit underneath because you want the ball to rest to stop the force from coming, so you have more control over your spin, and you want to be able to slide your hand through underneath the ball to add a cut. And if you're going out this way, the ball would go at an angle, hit the wall, and more or less straighten out. Now, if you're standing more towards the middle of the court, or to the right side of the court, I'm speaking for people who are righties in term, adding a cut this way would add more spin at the angle, and that would also, really push your opponent off the court, especially if it's done correctly. Now, those are the two more or less on the easier side of the cuts in terms of being aggressive and creating more space around the court, giving you better positioning and throwing your opponents off. But there is one more cut that I'm going to show you that's also very popular, even with the top players today, right after I show you a replay of a cut being used from a righty's perspective, from right to left. Alright guys, now here we are for the third and last cut that I'm going to be teaching you for this episode. Now, this cut is pretty much a flat facing cut. It's a cut that pretty much, however which way you hit the ball, that's exactly where it's going to go, and it's going to just drop. This spin is pretty much, like a down spin where the ball rotates towards you the whole time. So just imagine what the friction of the ball would do when it hits the wall. The more it spins in this downward trajectory and this downward spiral, it's going to hit and it's going to drop down fast. So either your opponent is going to try to hit it before it bounces, but it will be pretty close to the wall, leaving them vulnerable if they miss their shot. Or they're going to have to take a step back and hit an overhand shot, giving you room to come on inside and get ready to be on the offensive. So this is very simple, but a lot of the pros use this because it's also very easy to control. And because they're so skilled at it, they have so much spin on the ball that it actually has a good effect on the game. Now, most of the players that use this cut is when the ball's coming at them fast and they're trying to get into position again. So what they do is, in order to give themselves an ever so slight break, like a second or two break, to catch their breath, to reset the game, as it were. The ball will come at you, and what you want to do is aim for the bottom half of the ball with your hand, not being flat, but just like what I said earlier, how you have your hand angled with your wrist outward a little bit for a side cut, you're going to keep your hand down. That's why we call it a flat cut, a flat down cut. So the ball's coming at you, the ball is pretty much going to rest on your hand the moment it touches you, and then you're going to pretty much chop it. You're going to find that, I guess, equilibrium of when the ball meets your hand to where you're going to apply the force to make it a shot that will actually make it to the wall. Now, the more angled your hand is, and the better you are at chopping the ball, the stronger the cut will actually be. And obviously it's going to take some practice. Sometimes it's going to end up being a setup for your opponent because, one, you're either not using it at the right time, or two, you're just not hitting the ball and cutting it strong enough. So it's not that hard for your opponents to predict. But I will promise you this, it's one of the safest cuts in the game. The least video got cut out. But like I was saying, it's one of the simplest cuts in the game, one of the safest cuts you can actually do, and also the least predictable in terms of if somebody's looking back and they're watching you swing. Think about it. Nobody knows exactly what type of swing you're going to do, but especially when you have so much force behind your shot, nobody knows if you're going to chop the ball for a cut to reset the volley, or to figure out if the opponent is too far back to run up on a shot that's being dramatically influenced to come down to bounce backwards for them to move out of position for you to get into an aggressive state. But it's a lot less stress on your shoulders in terms of cutting the ball, because cutting the ball, although playing handball is very stressful for your shoulders, cutting the ball is also stressful for your shoulders, especially the more you try it, the stronger you get, the more you actually want to apply a stronger cut to the shot. You're going to feel a little bit of aches and pains that you haven't felt in a very long time. So here's the last example of a video of somebody using this cut, and let's jump right in.
So I didn't even count for that, and then yesterday when I was getting ready, my boy texted me, yo, you have a surprise. And we use the word surprise as...
Alright guys, so that's going to be the end of this episode on how to cut the ball. I want to say thank you to all of you who reached out and gave us a suggestion for this video to be created for you guys, so you can see from our point of view on how we cut the ball out here and make the games a little bit more spicy and I guess unpredictable. That's pretty much it. This is your boy Gooch. You're watching Handball House TV. Peace.